Today we're heading east all the way to Atlantic Canada to hear how one small foundation is protecting one of the world's most iconic fish. Our guest is Charline McCoy, Executive Director of the Foundation for Conservation of Atlantic Salmon, a group that's quietly funding hundreds of projects across 5 Canadian provinces. By the end of this episode, you'll hear how their efforts are helping open up nearly 200 million square meters of salmon habitat, what they've learned about climate change and the warming of rivers, and how local groups are stepping up to keep the salmon thriving. This is the Wet Fly Swing podcast, where I show you the best places to travel to for fly fishing, how to find the best resources and tools to prepare for that big trip, and what you can do to give back to the fish species we all love. Charline McCoy shares how their team of 3 manages to support $17 million in conservation work, restoring habitat, improving fish passage, removing dams, and getting kids involved through their Fish Friends education program. And we're going to be heading to Newfoundland this year to find out more and hopefully catch our first Atlantic salmon. If you're interested, we've got some spots available and we got it going here. So let's get into it. You can check in with Charline at salmonconservation.ca. All right, let's get going. How's it going, Charline?
Doing well. How are you?
Pretty good. Yeah, I'm excited to hear about your foundation that you're working with there. We're doing a pretty cool event right now. We're doing a giveaway for a trip to Mountain Waters Resort, and we got a bunch of great brands on, and I'm going to be heading there with the winner next year in June. So this is pretty exciting. I've never been to your basically Newfoundland, but it's going to be an opportunity to learn not only about the fishing, but about the fish and the species. And you guys are a conservation group, which is always really important, obviously, to everything. But yeah, maybe give me a rundown. This time of year, it's we're in kind of November. What's happening around there? Is it starting to get cold there?
It is starting to get a little cold. It's funny. Some days it's really warm and some days it gets cold. So it doesn't seem to know what it wants to do. However, we are, because of salmon in the rivers, hoping for a little bit more rain, to be honest with you. So that'd be very nice for the rivers. Yeah. So rain's always good. So yeah.
Are people still fishing there? Is it still open?
The fishing is, there is some fall fishing, but it's coming to a close. But yeah, and in Newfoundland, the fishing is pretty good. The foundation, which is a group that I work for, we actually cover all 5 provinces here in the Atlantic, which Newfoundland is one of them. Newfoundland, yeah, is very fortunate that there is some good fishing down that way. So if you're heading down to Newfoundland, I'm really happy for you. So.
Yeah, that's right. The more I get into this, the more I realize I think we chose a good place to go to. In fact, I had somebody who talked on, I'm trying to remember the podcast, but he basically said he thinks Newfoundland is the, last great, one of the last really great places to go to because of the populations are still pretty healthy. Is that, maybe first off, talk about the 5 provinces. What are those 5 provinces you're in control of or you work in?
Yeah, so we support conservation actions in all 5 provinces. So that would be New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI, Newfoundland and Labrador, and also the province of Quebec. So those are the five provinces that we focus on, and our foundation, which is Foundation for Conservation of Atlantic Salmon, one of the main goals is to help achieve a healthy and sustainable, salmon stock, and we do that through partnership, but mostly through grants. So we actually provide grants to a lot of the groups in each of these provinces, and that would be watershed groups, municipalities, universities, Indigenous groups, because they're the ones that actually are on the river and actually do the conservation efforts right on the ground. So we make sure that we're able to provide support to them.
So you're basically a larger group. We had Spawn on recently, and they talked about some of the efforts they're doing with monitoring fish, and which is really important, super important. And so you're basically supporting those groups. So you're not necessarily doing on the ground work, but you're funding those other groups that are doing the work.
Exactly. And it's important to support them because groups like you just mentioned, they need resources. They need the capacity to be able to keep doing the conservation efforts on the ground just to make sure we have a future for Atlantic salmon. Some of the other provinces are struggling with some of their population and stuff like that. So we want to make sure that we have reliable funding for these groups that they can depend on year after year. And we've been doing that since 2007, actually. So in total, throughout the years, I'm happy to announce that we have been able to give $17.5 million across all the 5 provinces. Yeah. So it's really a great news story, and we're able to continue doing that. So, and it's something we want to do for the long haul. And the reason we have that is actually because of a partnership we have with the federal government, Government of Canada. They actually gave the foundation way back then $30 million to give to a trust fund. So we invest that. So that's why by using the revenue that's generated by that investment, we're able to, provide support in that way to all these groups. So that way we do it every year, and we're really happy that we're able to do that.
So what are maybe a couple of describing, Spawn talked about a few projects. What are some other projects you might be funding out there that are helping to protect Atlantic salmon?
Yeah, we have like 5 major categories that we focus our funding towards. And that could be planning, habitat, the population, access, and education. And to go a little bit more of examples in that, it's improving like fish passage, replacing culverts, removing dams and obstructions, things like that. Improving the habitat, so planting trees, some stream restoration. And education and awareness is a category that's very important too, just making sure the community and folks are aware of the importance. And there's a lot of fish friends programs that are out there, just getting the youth to understand the importance of salmon to Atlantic Canada, and how to make sure that we put conservation as a priority and stuff like that. So there's a lot of like funds that go towards signage and those programs, and of course towards research too. So we do have a research component to the foundation, and those research is to do some data collection, answer some questions, so that we can come out with the proper actions to solve any issues or challenges that are happening on the river. So we cover all of those things. So it's pretty wide. Yeah. So there's just to give you a few examples of just the amount of work and the activities that are happening. Yeah.
And run through that again, the top of the 5. So what's the first category?
So the first category would be planning. So we do for watershed planning and so forth, where they can highlight their priorities for that specific watershed and actions. And of course, habitat. So habitat opening, habitat that has any obstructions, or improving the habitat itself. And also population. So, conserving, restoring a stock and the population of Atlantic salmon, and then certain access. And also education is the 5th category that folks can apply.
Perfect. Yeah, we were doing an episode with Nick Chambers, who is in a group called the Conservation Angler. It's on the West Coast. It's on the other side, but they're studying steelhead populations mostly around the Pacific Rim. And he was talking about how the study that he did actually in his master's project was on the Skagit River, where he studied like spawning steelhead and the fact that how fish, depending on the habitat, they don't go very far from where they're spawned, where they spawn in the wild. And he was saying he was following a similar study that's already been published with Atlantic salmon, how important it is. It shows that, the fish that are spawning, not only are they coming back to the natal stream, but they're not going more than 100 meters or 1,000, something like that, down away from where they are. So it's really important, the habitat. He was basically saying, hey, it's important to know where fish are spawning, to actually know, because if we know where they are, then we can know if there's a bottleneck, right? And so I'm guessing that some of the research and stuff you've done, is that kind of who's the types of projects that might be researched?
On our website, we have a priority list of actually research projects that we would really like to fund. And it covers questions and situations like you just mentioned, and also questions of climate change and what we can do, and just the evolution and things that are happening in the patterns that the salmon kind of travel in and stuff like that. So whatever we can learn, we can plan better to make sure that they have, that great spawning area and stuff like that. So, and find the right solutions for that.
And what was the website? Remind us again on the website.
Yeah, it's www.salmonconservation.ca. Yeah, so when you go on there, you'll have all the information of the foundation. There's information on how to fund your project and what those categories are. We actually have on the website too, we list all the projects that we funded since 2007. So with project descriptions, what they've been doing, and you can search by province, you can search by category or topic. So it's really unique that way. We have a salmon hub with all the results. So any reports that come out about any of these projects, and if you're interested to see what that is, you can access our salmon hub and have all that information as well. So it's a really good tool to know what's going on and just find the best practices and learn from that. So yeah.
So yeah, we verified the best website to go to is salmonconservation.ca. And there I see it now, project directory, funding your project, and Salmon Hub. So pretty much anybody can go there if they're in one of those provinces. And if they have a project they think is worthwhile, they can learn about options, and then they can actually submit an application through here.
Exactly. Actually, our call for proposals is open right now. We usually announce it in the summertime, and you have till November 14th to apply. And those are for any funding for projects for next year. So there's a couple of weeks left before November 15th, maybe 3 weeks. So if anybody is interested, please apply and use the information on our site. And we try to make our decisions fairly quickly before, the work's supposed to be actually hitting the ground. And we'll announce that in March.
Do you have you get these in, do you get typically more projects than you have money to fund, or do you usually have enough money?
Yeah, well, we do have a process that we have to take. So we wish we could say yes to everyone. But one of our mandates that we have is that we can't touch the capital of our investment, just the revenue that's generated. So depending on the year, as you know, of any investment, there's a fluctuation in the market. But we've been very fortunate. We just recently announced the markets have done well for us, and we are able to give $1.875 million for 2026, which is the highest amount that we've given in the last 18 years. So that's wonderful. However, every year we do have a demand that is between 2 to 2.5 million. So it is a process that we use. So if I use Newfoundland and Labrador for an example, we do have an advisory committee in the province with experts from that province, from that region. So we have folks from government, we have folks that have conservation background and for Atlantic salmon, and they actually evaluate all these proposals that come in, and they prepare recommendations for our board. So we do a very fair, very rigorous exercise to make sure that the funds are going to like the high quality project that's really going to make a difference in long term. And so, we take that in consideration.
Yeah, it looks like in just some of the projects I'm looking at them here, the aquatic habitat and riparian restoration monitoring. So you have that, and the Antigonish River Association, Nova Scotia. So you have that. Then you have another one, reverse the serious decline of Atlantic salmon in Rocky River. You've got Rattling Brook watershed obstruction removal. So there's a passage, further assessment of salmon core river water. So yeah, it's a little bit of monitoring. It's a nice mix of things.
It's a really good mix, and you need a little bit, of everything, just to make sure things run smoothly. And there's some of the conservation results. So all these projects, we want to make sure that we measure and benchmark to make sure the funds that are being distributed, there's actually, an end goal and a positive result that comes out of it. And we do try, if you look at our website, there's like bubbles there in the middle, and it shows the number of square meters of habitat access that's been open. And that's and it's a big amount. It's 199 million square meters. So that's huge. And these projects support volunteers and jobs as well. So some of our funding actually help with, HR and equipment and things that, can cost a lot of money for some of these small watershed groups. So, some of our results show almost 12,000 volunteers with many hours of efforts. So we want to be able to demonstrate, in measurable quantitative numbers to really show the difference that these conservation efforts that the groups are doing on the rivers, how much of a difference it is making. And you can clearly see from those numbers that it is.
Well, and it looks like there's a good mix between the provinces. What is we mentioned at the start kind of, Newfoundland, how numbers have been pretty good. How does that look overall in the province? Just do you have a broad scope of all kind of status and how well, or is there gaps out there?
Well, there is some gaps. There's similarities by province, but there are also some uniqueness. between them. But the majority of the provinces do have similar challenges. And that's when we talk about, pollution or even other human activities, the things that, it's hard to control, climate change, of course. And then you have invasive species that we're seeing more and more of. And then there's other ecosystem kind of pressures that are out there. So we do have some similarities, but the ones that we're seeing a lot here in New Brunswick and starting to creep up in Quebec and other places is that and even in Newfoundland, is that the water temperature and the levels are very challenging for salmon. Salmon needs a very unique habitat to be able to strive, and to survive in. So those are things that is nature, some things that we can do, as humans that we can do on the river to help make that better. But a lot of things, can be out of our control or some unknowns, right? And that's why the science part of things is so important to be able to address those issues.
Yeah, I know a lot of my focus, and I'm just learning now, obviously, about Atlantic salmon as we're preparing for the trip. But one thing, so I always compare it to other, stuff we know on that I've worked on the other end. But when we were talking about Chinook salmon, there's a big decline in Chinook salmon in Alaska, especially. And really, and I was asking the same question about what's going on, and it's really not as much of a habitat issue up there, although there probably are some climate change, ocean conditions. But a big part of it is the harvesting, like by ocean troll fisheries, like places, things like that are really impacting kind of size and stuff like that of the fish. Do you find that, I know harvesting in other areas is pretty impactful. Is that something that you're also digging into, understanding more about kind of harvesting and that whole part, whether it's sport or commercial?
We don't really touch the commercial here at the foundation. When it comes to other topics like harvesting, it could fall under the science kind of pillar to look into. But our funding is mostly focused for conservation on the wild rivers within the province and the actual habitat. However, I know there's so many unknowns out there in the marine, out at sea, because, the cycle of the salmon, they do go out for a number of years and then come back. So there's a lot of studies. So we are part of, there's other organizations that look at those things like the Atlantic Salmon Federation and our federal government and so forth. So we all kind of have our expertise and we all kind of collaborate and partner together on those things.
Some places are just different. You feel it the second you step into the water. Mountain Waters Resort sits on the legendary Portland Creek, a place where Atlantic salmon run strong and where fly fishing history was written. Lee Wolf himself fished these waters, and now you get to experience the same world-class fishing in a setting that feels untouched by time. Whether you're swinging flies for fresh chrome or kicking back in a cozy riverside cabin, this is the kind of trip you'll be talking about for years and years to come. And guess what? I'll be there this year as well. But here's the deal. Prime time season fills up fast, so don't wait. Check in now and join me on this historic river this year. You can head over to wetflyswing.com/mountain waters right now. That's Mountain Waters Resort. You can go to wetflyswing.com/mountain waters right now and save your spot for this epic adventure. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think that everybody's got their role. Like we're learning, I think that the Atlantic Salmon Federation, I'm guessing, is a little more on some of that. They maybe dive into. And we have the same thing in our area where you have groups that are more, maybe have the capacity to dig into more of some legal actions if needed, right? But there's other groups that are more, working with the local community, and that's a great thing. And that's not, in their wheelhouse getting into all that other stuff.
But at the end of the day, we all have the same goal, though. We want a future and a healthy and great population of salmon for forever, for the next generation.
Yeah, I think that seems like pretty much everybody, unless you're kind of crazy, right? I think that, even like commercial fishing, I feel like everybody kind of wants that because, like, who doesn't want healthy salmon populations, and which means you have a healthy environment, right? And
a good demonstration of that. So in October of 2024, which almost a year ago now, actually pretty much a year ago, we had the first ever symposium for all Atlantic salmon in Moncton, New Brunswick.
And is this all for the 5 provinces or larger?
Yep, it was a 5-province symposium, never been done before. The foundation took that on as part of our mandate and strategy, and we hosted that. We had almost 200 people in the room, folks from anglers to conservationists to watershed groups, all levels of government. We had some media coverage come, and it's really to highlight the importance of salmon, because salmon is very unique and it's a very integral part of Atlantic Canada. Like, it's like almost ingrained in our culture. And all these folks that are so passionate and doing all these different things with all the roles and responsibilities that we have, we actually got in one room for a day and a half and just really had some really good conversations about the future and what was needed and how can we partner, work together to make sure that we're really pooling our resources. And it was a great event, and we're hoping to do it at every 3 years. It was really instrumental.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like an amazing event, and probably, I'm sure, will grow over time, right? And you'll probably have more impact. And then is that meeting where you not only brought people together but talked about some of the successes and projects and things like that?
Oh, exactly. We talked about the challenges and what other folks, what solutions they found, and exactly the successes, the challenges, a little bit of everything, issues that we still not sure, how to go about it. So we had scientists there as well, giving their opinion and feedback. And, and it's important to even have the government officials in the room. So, because, Canada has just announced in March this year, actually, their new Canada's national strategy on the future of Atlantic salmon to ensure that there's a future. So that just came out here not long ago. So it was really important to have them in the room too, to hear those discussions. So there's so many different players, right? But they all has to be kind of, we all have to be connecting and talking. So that gave us that opportunity. So it was great.
And what is your role there with the foundation?
My current role, I'm the executive director with the foundation. As this July coming in 2026 would have been 5 years that I've been here. The foundation is very unique. It's been in place since 2005, and it had the same president and executive director for the last all this time up until 5 years ago.
Oh, it did?
Yeah. And they've done a really great job and create a great model here at the foundation. And that's is why we're still sustainable and striving and really, giving some great support that the folks can rely on. So my hat to my former president, Remy Bugeaud, and executive director, Stephen Chase, that really have put this foundation together. So for the first time ever, we have a second president that just started in March as well this year. And then I've been in this role for almost 5 years. So yeah, so it's a really, I'm really happy to have this job, to be honest. I think it's the best one I've ever had. It's a great place to work.
What has been in the last 5 years, what's been maybe the most challenging part of the position?
The most challenging is that we actually I know we're given a lot of funding every year, but we do realize that the demand is greater than even what we're seeing as proposals coming in. Folks have told us that they only apply for a certain amount because they figure they're not going to get the whole thing they need.
And projects don't get any cheaper. Like, as we go to replacing a bridge is not going to be less expensive than it was 5 years ago.
Exactly. So right now, to try to spread out as fair as we can, like every project is a maximum of $50,000. So if we would be able to top up our investment to generate more money, I would love to be able to change that. So make that maximum higher, be able to do some larger projects and more priority focus. Like I would change a lot of things. Like, it's working really well, we're doing good, but I would like to be able to do more if we could. So that would be great. So hopefully that is something that it's on our strategy, and we're hoping that is something we'll be able to implement here in the next year or two. So we'll see.
Okay, perfect. And who are other staff? Maybe talk about your other staff. Is it just you, or are there other folks there at the foundation?
So we actually have a very small staff. People are very surprised to hear that, because even what you can see on our website, we do manage a lot, but it's just myself and 2 coordinators. So we have a coordinator that's responsible for 3 of the provinces, which is New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and PI. That's Gert Lawler. And then we have Kristen Milbury that is responsible for Quebec and New Brunswick and our scientific projects. So we're just three, pushing away, but we're small but mighty. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm looking at, it looks like you have some webinars on your webinar schedule coming up here. I see one November 12th, recent advances in temperature modeling in Atlantic salmon. Are those webinars, describe those. Who are those focused on? Who are those for?
Yeah, so the webinar is part of our communication strategy. So because we support so many projects and so many great results come out of it, we feel a responsibility to be able to create platforms to transfer that knowledge. So everybody gets to hear about it. So, I talked about the Salmon Hub already, and we do the symposiums as well, which is another opportunity to share information. But the webinar series is a very unique tool, and we have a great audience for it. So we do it every fall. We start from September and it goes till about May. We try to do at least one session a month or two where we actually have topics that folks like to hear about, some great speakers that come on and they talk about results, about best practices, new applied science research results, and so forth. So we have a contact list now of people that are subscribed. Up to 1,500 people are subscribed to that, and we're just hearing great. So it's really great sessions. If you miss one, we try to promote it on our e-newsletter and on the social media. But if folks do miss it, we do have the YouTube page that you can click on at the bottom of the website, and we record all those sessions. So if there is a topic that you've seen, be promoted, but you didn't get a chance to go see it live, you can go on that YouTube page and go back and listen to that. So and it goes back for several years. So there's some really great information that people can learn from. Because one of the things we were hearing is that because we have covering 5 provinces, someone from New Brunswick might want to hear what's happening in Quebec, a new technique or something that they've never tried. So this is ways for us to be able to make sure that everybody has a chance to hear what's going on and transfer that knowledge. So that's what that one's all about.
Yeah, I see it. I see the YouTube. This is a great channel as well. Yeah, you have similar embedded culvert. It looks like you're talking about before and after of a undersized culvert. You've got considering the role of salmon and other anadromous fish. So yeah, this is a good resource too. The YouTube channel, definitely would recommend subscribing to that. Awesome. And then on the salmon, just overall, again, give us high level picture. Do we know how, because we've heard these stories of across, in Europe and Scotland and some runs on the downturn. Do you have a pretty good feel for, status currently in those 5 provinces?
Well, the number of adult salmon coming back is decreasing, and that's a concern. Decreasing, sorry. No, sorry. I wish I could say increasing, but it is decreasing. I know there's a lot of concern in the last 2 to 3 years. They are seeing that decline. But they're still hopeful that that will change. And so I guess we'll have to see. So, this is being studied, at the local, regional, provincial, and even at the international level. The Atlantic salmon covers a lot of ground.
Is the Atlantic Federation, or is it, what's the other larger group that you mentioned, Atlantic Federation?
Well, there's the Atlantic Salmon Federation, an advocacy group, and of course we have our Department of Fisheries that looks into it with their new strategy, and there's also NASCO as well. It's the National.
Yeah, what is that one?
Atlantic Salmon Commission, anyways, and it looks at it at an international level where you have different countries around the table that do have Atlantic salmon to talk about priorities and strategies at that higher level as well. So it's just to show you, how far it does go, and there is some experts and folks that do meet and try to talk and put things in place for Atlantic salmon.
That's right, and I know there's some groups in the U.S. as well. They're doing some similar work. I see this now. The NASCO, North Atlantic Salmon Conservation Organization.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Aim to restore, enhance, manage, salmon throughout international cooperation, right? So there's your international. I mean, it's obviously like these fish are going across international waters, right, as they migrate out in the ocean, and that's why the big group is important too. I mean, you guys are obviously in the provinces there, super critical, everything you're doing, but you got to have a worldwide, plan, right? You got to climate change. Do you have any? Climate change is always the one that is challenging because it seems like it's such a understanding and it's a daunting task. Is that something where you're funding climate change type projects out there?
We are funding it through our applied research stream. So when we do a call for proposal every year, we do a general call for like conservation efforts. And we also put out an RFP for scientific priorities. And climate change is one of those. It's on the list. So if we get a proposal that is targeting that subject, of course, we will be looking at it and hopefully be able to fund it. So.
And you mentioned this year you're going to have roughly $1.8 million, and which is a considerable amount, given the fact that if you think you're saying $50,000 per project, you divide that into that money. That's a number of projects, right? Is that the right math there?
Yeah, no, it's exactly that. It is really good number of projects, and try to divide that fairly by province as well. And we're even hoping that by 2027, I mean, I do have a really great investment committee that are experts. So they're predicting that we'll be able to give $2 million by 2027, which would be wonderful. So I'm excited for that. Yeah.
Well, anything else we should understand about your organization, or how, maybe the question too is how can people listening now support if they're listening in from not only Canada, but, around the world?
Well, they can support by, joining, subscribing, reading our things, telling the great story of how the foundation is supporting salmon, how Atlantic salmon is important for our culture, our economy, etc. I think telling the story is very important, and that we're one of the players in that. Of course, we don't fully promote it on there, but we will never say no to donations to increase that top up, of course. And any funds that do come through the foundation, 100% goes right back to the conservation efforts on the river. So it's just to kind of spread the word.
Good. So get the word out there, check out maybe join a webinar. And that's the cool thing about this day and age, is that people can check in, right?
And if they subscribe with us, they'll get all that information. So we'll be able to give them updates every month of what's going on, and they can join us.
Perfect. Well, I think, like we said at the top, we're doing a cool event, which is we're heading there to Newfoundland. Now, tell me, what province are you in?
So we're centered in Fredericton, New Brunswick. So we're pretty much central to all the five. I'm very fortunate in my job that every year get to go to all the provinces. So I do get to Newfoundland, Labrador at least 3 to 4 times a year. So, and I the same for the other ones. So I get to explore the Atlantic and these wonderful provinces and rivers. So I do wish you a great trip, and I know you will when you go. So I never got to fish or actually do those activities in Newfoundland, Labrador yet, but I'm hoping that I will someday soon. So, because I hear great stories.
Nice. Yeah. So you're in, just to get the geography correct, you're in New Brunswick, which is actually connected right there. It's right across from Maine, right? The U.S. is right there. And then as you go out, you have Nova Scotia, which is kind of in the same area. And then where is Newfoundland from? That's up north, right, of you?
It would be, and we would have to take a plane or a ferry to get to Newfoundland from New Brunswick.
So it's, you head north, and then of course you have Labrador, which is the main, and then Quebec also is in which is huge, right? Quebec is the biggest of the provinces.
It is, and the rivers in the Gaspésie are beautiful. Yes. So if you get a chance to take a drive in that direction, I would, yeah.
If we were going to, we are going to Newfoundland. If we go there, where would be? I've heard there's some really cool, just other, national parks. What would you recommend? Is there some activity or place there that we should see when we go to Newfoundland?
And they'd be the best one to say that, but the culture and the folks in Newfoundland are so welcoming, and they have their traditions there. And so, you can get screeched in, just embrace all the uniqueness of the island. And I would just experience it and do it all.
Yeah, do it all. What would be a good time? Do you think we should have? Is a week enough there, or is it enough to see some of the sites?
I would go for a couple of weeks, because it is an island, but you do have to drive from one end to the next. It's pretty big. From the west to the east to Labrador, there's quite some road to cover, so it'd be hard to do it all in a week, that's for sure.
And as we take it out of here, a couple of quick random ones. I know off air you were mentioning about your family, how they were excited about your job here, and you kind of got into fly fishing. Talk about that. Is your family? It sounds like you have some boys. Are they into fishing, fly fishing, all that stuff?
Yes. So my husband and my two teenage boys, I got a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old. They absolutely love to fish. They've always fished since they're little. So when I told them I was going to work for an Atlantic Salmon Foundation, they were like jumping for joy. They were more excited than I was because they're like, when are we going fishing? But, we're a conservation, funded, entity, but we did have the occasion to go visit some rivers in, Quebec and some other ones, and did get to do some fly fishing, and we did it as a family, and it was wonderful. So, once you start doing that, you just fall in love with the sport and with the fish and the environment, so that it's in.
Well, that's great. I think we could probably leave it there. And, as we get ready for, this event, we're wrapping up or we're just wrapping up here. We're definitely excited. If anybody has questions, we can send them out to the Foundation for Conservation of Atlantic Salmon. That's salmonconservation.ca. Does that sound like a good place to send everybody?
Yes, it sounds great, and all our contact information, everything's on there, so feel free to send us an email too or a phone call. We'd be happy to hear from anybody and happy to see what's going to come out of the contest. We've been promoting it on our social media as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we've got a bunch of excited fly anglers that are looking forward to winning, but I think it's more important than the winning on these events is more about understanding, like we're doing now. This is what I really love, right? Getting people to understand.
Exactly. It's part of the awareness and all that stuff. So yeah.
Kind of fitting into that, one of your pillars, right?
You are. Yes. Great partner.
Good. We're checking the box. Maybe we'll be in maybe we'll put in for some funding eventually to do a project out there. Okay. All right, Charline. Thanks for all your time. And like I said, we'll get everybody sent out if they want to check out your website. And we'll look forward to staying in touch.
All right. Well, thanks, Dave.
You can follow Charlene's work and learn more at Foundation for Conservation of Atlantic Salmon. That's salmonconservation.ca. You can also find them on social media as well. If you're interested in heading out to this big trip to Newfoundland, you can go to wetflyswing.com/pro. It's the best place. If you get involved there, you will get first access on some of these trips that we have going. And also want to let you know, we are looking for ideas for episodes. If you have an interest in a certain topic, something you want to hear more of, send me an email, dave@wetflyswing.com anytime, and we'll put that together for you. All right, that's all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed this one and look forward to catching you on the next episode. I hope you have a great morning, great evening, or great afternoon, wherever you are out there in the world today. It's getting into the fall here as we speak. I hope you're staying warm, and we'll see you on that next episode. Talk to you then.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.